Member for Hughes, are you also seeking the call?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I seek leave to move the following motion, and I apologise to members of the opposition for delaying their matter of public importance. 1, that this House notes, in a free and democratic nation, any experimental medical intervention which has zero long-term safety data should only be administered with the free and informed consent of the person undergoing the medical intervention. B, that no Australian should ever be placed in a situation where they are coerced into undertaking any medical intervention with the threat of being sacked from their job and denied the freedom to work in their career of choice and the career that they have trained for. C, any policy by a government or a private sector employer that mandates Australians to be injected with an experimental vaccine violates basic human rights. D, thousands of Australians, including nurses, police officers, airline pilots, teachers, truck drivers, disability workers, charity workers, office staff, etc., have already been thrown out of their jobs and denied the freedom to pursue their career of choice for not submitting to be injected with an experimental, provisionally approved substance that has no long-term safety data. E, compulsory mandates requiring Australians to be injected with any COVID injections and policies of segregation, discrimination and medical apartheid are not based upon the latest science or the latest evidence, but such mandates are based upon the marketing literature of the vaccine sellers, superstition and mindless fear-mongering. F, the most recent published data—
The member for Hughes, these motions are to suspend standing orders are meant to be brief. How many items do you have left?
I have 2 more items and 2 more points, Deputy Speaker.
The member for Hughes has the call.
The most recent published data from the UK Health Security Agency, titled COVID Vaccine Surveillance Report Week 46, records that those injected twice between the ages of 30 and 79 years of age have a greater chance of having COVID than those not injected. And the title of a recent published study by researchers from the University of California is self-explanatory. It is vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals have similar viral loads. The esteemed virologist Gert van den Bosch has warned that such mandates will result in a catastrophe and has stated, "No healthy individual should be considered more of an infectious threat than another. There is no scientific rationale for any individual, whether vaccinated or not, to discriminate against contacts with any healthy vaccinated or unvaccinated person." 2, I'm getting there, Mr Speaker, notes that the federal government of Australia has multiple constitutional powers to ban COVID vaccine mandates and to ensure that workers currently sacked from their jobs under vaccine mandates can return to their work and recommence their careers before Christmas. 2 more. Only hours ago, in the USA, a federal judge—
The member for Hughes, you said you had two less ago. A motion to suspend standing orders is not an opportunity to debate the issue.
I'll conclude with the final point, Deputy Speaker. Calls on the government to immediately bring on the No Domestic Vaccine Passport Bill of 2021, introduced into this parliament in July by the member for Hughes, for debate and determination before this parliament rises for the Christmas-New Year holiday break.
Is leave granted?
Leave is not granted. Thank you, Mr.
Leave is not granted. The member for Hughes.
I move that so much of standing and sessional orders be suspended as would prevent the member for Hughes from moving the following motion immediately. Deputy Speaker, Mr Speaker, rather than read the motion out again, I'll conclude with a final point that calls on the government to immediately bring on the No Domestic Vaccine Passport Bill of 2021, introduced to this parliament back in July by the member for Hughes, for debate and determination before this parliament rises for the Christmas and New Year break.
Is the motion seconded?
Motion seconded, Mr Speaker. I second the...
Just one moment, please. Is the member for Hughes going to make a speech?
If leave is granted, Mr Speaker, absolutely.
The member for Hughes does not need leave to make a speech. The member for Hughes has the call, and then I'll go to the seconder.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. With only a few weeks left to Christmas, many Australians are facing a dark and bleak Christmas holiday. They are facing a situation where they will not be able to recommence their jobs. They are facing a situation of being sacked from their employment. Not only from their employment, Mr Speaker, but also from their career of choice. This includes nurses, this includes police officers, airline pilots, teachers, truck drivers, disability workers and charity workers. Many of them have already been thrown out of their jobs, denied the freedom that we bless here in Australia to pursue their career of choice simply for the reason that they have decided, they have made the decision for themselves that they do not want to participate in this global vaccine experiment. That should be the free choice that these people have in a democratic society. Standing and sessional orders should be suspended because we here in this parliament only have hours left to go before we will pack up and we will go on holidays and this parliament will close down over that Christmas break for all of us to enjoy Christmas holidays and a Christmas break. But we will be denying that. We will be denying that to thousands and thousands upon Australians. Mr Speaker, we heard only a few hours ago in the USA, a federal judge issued preliminary injunctions against the US President's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. With this decision, no healthcare worker in all 50 states of the USA can be dismissed from their job for not submitting to a mandatory injection with a COVID genetic vaccine, with the judge noting, and I quote, "If human nature and history teach us anything, it is that civil liberties face grave risk when governments proclaim indefinite states of emergencies." Mr Speaker, the House should bring this on for a debate. If the member for Macarthur has an alternate opinion, let's have the debate, because there are thousands of medical experts with far higher qualifications than the member for Macarthur that have treated with far many more COVID patients than the member for Macarthur has, that have a completely different opinion to the medical bureaucrats of this nation. We deserve to have that debate. There is no single source of truth when this comes about. Mandates forcing Australians to be injected against their free will using coercion is unethical, it is un-Australian, and it should stop. This parliament has the power to do so. It has the power to reunite our nation, to end the segregation, to end the medical discrimination if it wants to. That is the choice that I wish to put to this parliament that they can vote on immediately.
Is the motion seconded?
Second the motion, Mr Speaker. I'll be very brief. I support this motion because of the heartache that I am hearing, the harm that I'm hearing from my constituents, people who have lost their jobs, people who are about to lose their jobs, all because they will not be part of, or do not wish to be part of, a provisionally approved medical procedure in this country. And it is a provisionally approved medical procedure. There is no denying that fact. It's on the TGA's website. For governments to be saying to people, and it is not, I appreciate, the Australian government, it is state governments that are saying it, for state governments to be saying to people that they must go and have this medical procedure done in order to keep their job is anathema. It is hurting people, a lot of people. To show the stupidity of it, I mentioned this last night in this place, a psychologist in Mackay who does home consults via telehealth has to be vaccinated, double vaccinated, or she loses her career of 30 years. 30 years. Tell me, how is COVID going to crawl down the internet and infect one of her patients? It's absurd, but the whole thing is absolutely absurd. And it's not just workers who are going to be hurt here. I know of small business owners, cafe owners, who don't want to partake in the medical procedure, and they are going to have to shut their doors. Perhaps even some of them will go bankrupt in Queensland from the 17th of December. We can do something about it here in this place. We should do something about it. We control the data that comes from the Australian Immunisation Register. It can be flicked off with a switch and then no one knows who's vaccinated or who's not. And we should have that stance until the people who are imposing this medical segregation actually say they're going to stop it and not harm anyone anymore. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
The question is that the motion moved by the member for Hughes be disagreed to. All of those that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. No. I only heard one voice. Is division required? There is no division required, being less than 5 members on. Less than 2 voices. No, there was 2 voices. The member for Dawson raised it as well. You have requested a division. Yeah, two voices called for the division. A division is required. Ring the bells for 4 minutes. Lock the doors. As there are fewer than 5 members on the side for the noes in this division, I declare the question resolved in the affirmative in accordance with Standing Order 127. The names of those members who are in the minority will be recorded in the votes and proceedings.